We're live.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Hampton, and welcome to the Activate Symposium Branding Roundtable. We're going to talk about activating your zone of genius through your brand story. So, I am excited to have this conversation with my co-host today and our infopreneurs, our leaders of knowledge when it comes to branding, our superstars. We have Marilyn Robinson, we have Peggy, the headshot strategist, and we have Cassandra from Stargazers United. Just give everybody a round of applause while you're there. Where you are at home, just give us the hands, give us the hands, give us the hands, and welcome to this awesome conversation. So I always never assume that you know who's in the room. So we're going to do the other introductions where they're going to tell you about their platform. So let's start with Peggy, the headshot strategist. Give us your introduction and your elevated pitch of who you are and go.
Well, thank you, Chris. And as always, it is amazing to be in this room around this round table having a conversation with all of these amazing people. My name's Peggy. I am a headshot strategist. I've been a professional photographer for over 30 years, and I take the strategies that actors use to make impactful headshots, and I take it to the corporate world and teach you how to make your headshot impactful, how to draw your ideal clients, and how to make an amazing first impression.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's go to my right with Marilyn Robinson and just give us that wonderful introduction. I see that wonderful smile there. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Robinson, and I am a life coach. And my focus is helping people make the best out of the last third of their life. I'm turning 64, and I have found that, oh my gosh, life is so much better in your 60s. I know you don't believe that. So, the first thing we work on is your mindset. And I help you realize that 60 is where it's at.
Awesome, awesome. I'm a few. I got like a decade and a half. I'm in my 46s. Be a great example, Marilyn. Be a great example. So last and not least, Cassandra from Stargazers Unite.
Hello. Yes. I am my name is Cassie Blaine, and I am a brand alchemist with Stargazers Unite. I've been helping people with their brands, their logos, their websites, creating creating and generating those things for people that really are unique and authentic to them and help radiate their soul out to the world. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. So yeah, that's me.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I just want to do some housekeeping here, some housekeeping, guys. So this is a conversation. A conversation is a conversation between two or more people, a dialogue going back and forth. But we also want you to be a part. So if you're watching this wherever you are, say hi, where you're from, be able to tell me where you're at. If you have a question about anything, a statement, if you said something that we said made it pop for you, say, ooh, that was hot, and put it in the chat for us. We want to know that you're there and you're watching and that we're making an impact. So again, we're going to talk about activating your zone of genius. And we've been talking about branding all month. So I hope you've been getting the replays and watching these replays. But we're talking about branding and the importance of branding for your business, for your life, because we all brand ourselves, whether it's your work or your profession or an entrepreneur, or even we're branding yourself when you're going to a job for a job interview. You have a brand that you're presenting to the job. So it's very important that these to know this skill, because this skill will translate into every area of your life if you let it and you work it. Okay. So I'm going to bring the question up. And now, you know me, guys, I like to do that free for all. So I'm going to throw a question out there, and whoever wants to whack at it first, put your finger up like that and say, I got it, and I'll pick on you. Okay. So why is your brand story? Well, let's talk about this. What is your brand story? What is the brand story? And then we'll talk about why it's important. But what is the brand story? So who wants to take a whack at that one? All right, I'm gonna pick Cassandra. What is your brand story?
So your brand story is it is your story. It's your story of your company, your story of who you are, who you are trying to help, how, what is your why? Why are you doing what you are doing? Why is it that you are wanting to help and assist um, help and assist people? What is it that drives you? Because people are going to get behind your why more than and be able to support your why better than they're just going to be able to support you. Like
Okay.
that just kind of gives them something to kind of hook into and kind of champion behind.
Marilyn?
So, I mean, okay, so I like to give examples. So, if I was 20 years old and I was trying to tell you that I was going to go and teach you how to be in your 60s, I wouldn't really be connecting well. So, you really have to live your brand. You have to be your brand. And the best way to get people to recognize your brand is by you as an example. Another one is I'm not all that great in fitness. Be a fitness coach, you'd look at me and say, "Why would I follow you? You're not very fit." So you do have to be a brand at all times, whether you're, putting marketing materials together, the words you choose, all of that has to be something that it has to be your story. I'll leave something for Peggy.
Okay.
I think I'm going to just kind of take what both of you guys said and kind of just package it up neatly. It is your story. I mean, it's who you are. It's why you do the things you do, but most importantly, it's why do you want to follow me? What do I do that connects with you? What experiences have I lived that you have also lived or that resonate with you? And when we are honest and authentic with our brand stories and our own stories, then other people that can relate to that same situation, the same belief, the same ideology, there we go, they can find you. So it's really important to be authentic in your story and let your story be just that, your story, because there are things about you that are so unique, but at the same time, those uniquenesses connect and bring out other people that need that in their life, that want that in their life, or that are drawn to those things in their life.
I like that. Just what popped in my head was, is there a difference between a brand story and a brand message? Think about that.
So I'm going to jump right in there with that. So I think there shouldn't be a difference, but
Yeah.
oftentimes I think there is. I think that for me, this is something that I work on daily is to try to be really honest with the messages that I give out. Now, I change and I grow as a human. You know, what I said and thought 20 years ago is not necessarily what I say and think today. But that's part of my story is what the experiences that I went through that changed my viewpoints, that helped me grow and become the person that I am today. And so even if your message changes, that's because your story is growing and you grow into the message that you are.
Great. I kind of looked at it from the point of view of like your message is like the end of the chapter. If we're thinking of the story, it's the end point that you're trying to get them to, but your brand story is the engagement. It's you getting the people involved to get to that end piece. So I was like, it's part of the. It's almost like a complete paragraph. It's like the end of the sentence. It's actually the end of the sentence, but it wouldn't just be right if it was just a message by itself. There's a whole
Needs that
story that
support.
goes with it. Yeah, that supports the message. What do y'all think about that?
I like the point where Peggy said that if your message changes, it's because you've grown. And
Yes.
because I do think that as you grow, as where you start with your business is not going to be where you finish with your business. It's going to be something that's ever changing, ever evolving, ever you know it's going to take these different turns and curves, and there's going to be a consistent theme with that. But you're always going to grow and finesse and all the things. So if that's not changing with you, then there's a part that your audience is missing out on.
What do you think, Marilyn?
Okay, so while you guys were talking, I was thinking a message actually could add some more detail to the story. So in my case, I look at it as, okay, as part of my story, I might say, mention an experience, but then the message might be taking that experience to an outcome, like you said, the conclusion at the end of the paragraph. So it's what I did with that experience, or what, so you relate to people and you connect with people that are going through the experiences and the life drama that you went through. And you're able to go ahead and take that and provide a message that says, this is how I proceeded, this is how I moved forward, and what my results were. And so that could be where the differentiation is, a little more detail in the message.
I like it. And I think that it's important, again, that your story and your message is going to take you to be have the gift of insight. You just don't come up with these things. You really, I think this whole entire branding messages that we've been doing over the past 3 weeks that we've been talking about branding together is really to challenge you to become intentional with what you're putting on the table. And I'll for those of you who didn't watch the replay, or this is your first time, I want to go back into discussing how important it is that you're intentional and that you're intentionally authentic with your messaging and your branding. So I'm going to throw that out there and see where we go from there. Peggy, what do you think about that?
Well, that's something that I'm always saying is do everything you do with intention. Like, I drive my family crazy because if I have 15 things to do in one day, like I map it out. Like I don't just go to the store, like, because I don't like to backtrack and go all over. I'm like, okay, if I leave now, I can do this, 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 and then come back for this meeting and then go do this, this, and this. And that's how I live my life, just as far as running errands go. So you can imagine how I feel that it's when you do things with intention, then it works smoother. It's going to be more authentic. If you have intention to the message that you're saying, it's going to line up with the story that you're living, and it's going to draw in the people that you are trying to attract. For me personally, I'm a headshot photographer. I work with delivering people's first impression. I work with helping people market themselves through their image. And it's, if you come to my studio and you just want cheese, I want to look pretty, that headshot, that profile picture is just that. It's just going to not really do much for you. But when you put an intention behind it and you're like, I want to look professional, I want to look trustworthy, and we work towards that, then you have something that you can use instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that something sticks. So that's kind of
I
how,
love that.
you've got to know what you're doing and do everything with intention.
I love that because we don't think about, and I love that you're on here because we don't really think about the photos that we have. And it's weird because I did a photo shoot and my wife is my PR person. So I'll think a photo shoot looks great, and she'll be like, no, it's that one where you're smiling, because I have issues with my smile. Like, you're like, hey, it's a great smile. I'm like, no, I don't. I smile with my eyes, or this, that, and the other. But when I'm thinking that I'm being deep, or I'm thinking that I'm doing my serious, that man on the wall pose that you see in those little staunchy offices, she says, no, that looks like you're trying to kill somebody. but it should reflect your personality. Which the picture, people. I think it's a very important piece of it, of your brand story, because people do judge the book by the cover. So when you look at, as I was challenged, and I'll give you this example, I was challenged as a speaker to work on my one sheet that I just had. So I got to redo all my one sheets because my mentor was like, "That doesn't look like a $20,000 speaker. Would it would client? That looks like you're doing it from the hip up, like the ready from the ground up. But what is the level that you're showing that you're? What is the journey that you're taking? What I love about your Facebook page or your Instagram, if you use it right, can tell the story of where you're heading to, and people are now joining you because they've seen the progress. I started speaking like this 2 years ago when the COVID, doing this virtual stuff, only 2 years old, right? I never looked at this before, right? But because of me doing it now, I don't look like I've been doing it for 2 years. But Facebook has a way of reminding you what you look like 2 years ago. So I love that branding picture. On what would you add on to that? What Peggy said, Cassandra or Marilyn?
Okay.
Yeah, go.
I'm trying to anticipate my pause.
I am.
Living in the country, living life in its fullest with terrible internet. But so I like the fact that, the intention is you got to be direct with it too. I mean, the pussyfooting around and, you got to, part of your credibility, part of who you are and what you want to add value to when you're talking to somebody is providing them, the intent on what's going to come out of the actions with you. I'm always talking from a coach's perspective. So when I'm talking with an individual, I may, we're talking about an experience or a place they are in their life. Well, the intention is, where do they want to move to next? What does it look like, in a month, in 6 months, whatever it is, but really understanding that intention and allowing a way to be able to describe, okay, then this is some things that we can do to get there.
Mm-hmm. Good. I like that. Cassandra, you have anything, or you want to?
Well, I mean, I just, I feel like it's, both of what Peggy and Marilyn have said are just, so important to, and I'm in complete agreement with that, is that, especially when, especially with what Peggy says about like the headshots and the photos, like we don't think about those things until somebody really sits down and tells you that, because you don't necessarily think that this photo or whatever. And I also feel like continuing to make sure that you're very consistent across all platforms is something that's in what you say and how you post, just having that continual and like to show that consistency.
And I think the value what you're saying, Cassandra, I'm just going to call you like a mixture of all three of your names, Cassandra. I think to add on to that, if people have to guess what your story is, you're not being a good storyteller. If they can't tell what's going on with your brand, something's going on with your storytelling. And I'll give an example for this. I was talking to Monica about this earlier. I don't know if you ever remember the Mentos commercials. And they had these crazy Mentos commercials that had nothing to do with Mentos. And I'm like, what am I watching here? And it goes, Mentos. Okay. I don't know if that was good marketing or bad marketing at all, but I was like, what am I watching? It's like, I know what it is when I see it. So the danger of that is that either it turns people off or it gets that certain crowd that they're looking for. But the danger comes in is that you don't want people to guess what you do.
Mhm.
So having the clarity, and I think that that's a very important piece of what you have. And what's very interesting in with the three of you here is that you all are storytellers in different ways. So if I was to look at Peggy, she's like that picture book, the picture book story. And I listen to the rest of you talk, and I see these different stories, and you evolve as you go. And I was kind of making fun with Kathy earlier that the Find Your Way book, but that's still a story. So find your way. You're still doing the storyteller. There's still a beginning, middle, and end. How you get to the end is multiple ways, but I love that way about the way the three of you are. So, as the professional branders here, let's talk about um, how to tell the story. And I'm going to set the foundation with Monica's three things that she gave us. She said that when you think about storytelling, there are three elements to a story. There is the tone, there is the character, and there is the setting. Now we got into English right? So now we know to talk about how that translates into the business. When we say tone, what is it that we're talking about when we say the tone of your brand? In your own interpretation.
Um, I I think that the tone of your brand is going to start with, okay, do you want to come, like, I feel like it also kind of ties into who are you targeting? Do you want your, if you're going to be talking to doctors or lawyers, do you want to be coming off as like super fun and playful? Probably not. You're going to want a much more professional approach. So you kind of have to figure out who it is that you're talking to, so that you can actually your blend the your tone and feel. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people, when they look at my brand, they're like, it's fun, it's vibrant, it's eye catching. Well, that's wonderful for the clients that I'm working for. Is that wonderful for if I was trying to go after it, like if I was trying to talk to a different dynamic? Mm, maybe not. Maybe not. So that's kind
Now,
of
I
my
like
two.
how you talked about the tone also affects your feelings. The
Mhm.
feelings that people get when they see and hear. It's an experience. So, what is that experience you want them to get? Um,
Yeah.
Anyone else on tone?
So I'll jump in.
See,
Okay.
Marilyn.
So the other thing is that in my line of work, well, in any line of work, you pick who you want to work with. And so I've had an opportunity where I was meeting with a client who um, very introvert and quiet, and I'm bubbly and vivacious, and I had to modify my behavior, my tone, my delivery, and quiet down a lot. And for me, it was, um, I want to enjoy working with people, so I want to be myself. So for me, tone allows me to also sift and sort to find the right clients. I told the individual, I said, I sense that I put you a little on edge because of my energy. If you're interested in pursuing this, I would be happy to introduce you with someone that you might feel more comfortable with, because
Mhm.
I don't want to spend all my energy changing my tone, my delivery, and then be exhausted at the end of my conversations with clients because I'm not serving them as well because I'm
Right.
spending so much of that. So tone can also be used, to find the right clients to work with.
That's great.
One of the things I do a weekly podcast, a video show podcast, and I've done it for about 5 years. And when I first started it, a lot of people said, "Oh, what? Why? You're a photographer. Why do you have this show?" And I said, "Well, a couple of reasons. One is I have a lot of really good, helpful information for people in the industry that I want to get to them. But second, I want them to be able to see my personality at work if you don't want to hang out with me on a podcast for 30 minutes, you sure aren't going to want to come to my studio and be trapped with me for an hour or 2 hours in a photo shoot.
That's true.
And um, I I don't change my personality for anyone. Um,
Mm,
I am a bit of a chameleon, and that is I can fit in about anywhere. I can have a very intelligent conversation. I can, kind of be silly and, bubbly. Um, I've always had that gift or ability. I'm an Aquarius. But 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 I've never felt like, oh, I'm doing this big event for powerful attorneys. I'm going to be, nope, I'm just Peggy. And I find that that is what they like, is the tone of my me, because I put them at ease and I allow them to be them. And so I find that when we are intentional and authentic with our own tone, even if our tones don't match up to other people's tones, it lets them know they're in a safe place and they can be themselves. I have clients that come in that say 3 words to me in 2 hours, and we have a great shoot. And I'm like, it's cool. Like, what do I need to do to help you? Like, I can do all the talking, or I can be quiet and just point, turn your head right or left, whatever you want to do. What do we need to get you to the place you need to be? And I think when we are okay with who we are, then
mhm.
we give space for people to be okay with who they are. And I
I,
think that's the key to that intention and authenticity that we were talking about. Because
yeah,
if we're not out there trying to please other people and we're just being us, then they feel like, oh, I can just be me. Like, she doesn't care.
right. And I think you have
And
to look at it from the
I think
point that
that's,
I realize that not everybody is meant for you.
oh
So like
no.
I kind of believe that, if those people say I'm here for everybody, that's why you go to, I guess, Walmart over Target. It's not, they sell the same thing. It's just the experience that you're having in between that. So when I also think about tone, I'm thinking about frequency.
Hmm.
And I was talking to my wife about this the other day, that there are certain frequencies that annoy me. It's like I can't explain it. Certain frequencies of voices, people's voices. I don't know what happened to me. Their age, I'm just very sensitive to it. Whether it's my wife likes to sleep with noise. I don't. So it annoys me. It's the frequency, it's the noise. But to apply that to business is that your frequency may be noise to someone else, but it may be attractive to somebody else, and that you can't be deterred or try to be told to mold your frequency to a standard way of thinking. There's a textbook definition of business, and they want to say, well, you have to look like this. When you're developing your brand story, the most important piece of that brand story is your brand story, and you have to discover that frequency that's good for everyone else. So we said tone, which went a whole wow. It went like metaphysical on us. It went energy. We're talking about frequency. We were in the zone, right? Let's talk about that next piece. That next piece is character. The character. It could be character or the character of of the storytelling aspect, and how important is the character, and who should that character be, or does it have to be you? So let's throw those out there. That's a big meaty one I just threw out there. Just gave it to you.
Okay, I'll sign up to
Marilyn,
go first.
good. You got
So
you.
going first because this was a tough one, and I don't want to go last because I don't want.
I love that. Hold on. I love that. Let me go
He's
first.
like, I've got one thing, and if Peggy says it, I'm going to have to smack her.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead, Marilyn.
So I mean, it goes back to what Peggy was saying. It's be yourself. I mean, whatever your character is who you are. And we can all play different roles, depending upon whether you're the mother beating up on your kids, or reprimanding, or if you're the romantic with your spouse, there's different characters, different roles we play that go with those characters. But I mean, the really bottom line is that I'm like you. My high school photo, I fell in love with the serious photo, and I was showing, that's the one I wanted in the yearbook. And I was showing it to one of my favorite teachers. He goes, "That's not you. That's not you at all. You're always laughing. You're always smiling. Why would you want that to be your, the picture that represents you?" So, I do. I love to smile. I love to laugh. And that's part of my character. And maybe my laugh annoys you, but that's too bad, Chris.
I like your laugh. But that's so important about being yourself, and it took me a while to get used to me, and I'm evolving. So you already been where I'm going, and just talking about the development of this character of me, just learning to love. Like at high school, I was wallflower, nerdy dude, sitting against the wall. Don't feel like I have any hotness going on. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, yo, this is, hey, Idris, hey. I feel good about myself, but that's an evolution, and that's okay. But people need to see that I think people need to realize that it's not a finished work of art,
Right.
and that you're taking a part of the story is you're seeing that development. And there's some people that want that perfect picture, and I don't think there ever will be that perfect picture, because the moment that you get used to that picture, it's time to change. So, all right, she took the first whack. Who's going to take it on? Who's going up next? Kathy's like, I'm going to be last.
Okay, I'll come in. I really don't have anything to say about this. That said, if I were the type that had something to say about this, I might say that you don't always have to be the hero in your story. Sometimes you can just be a supporting character. You can just be authentic. I'm going to say, I think authenticity is the word of my Peggy's word of the day is authenticity. Um, I think sometimes we all want to be the main star of every part of the story, but sometimes how we become the star is by letting the light shine on other people in our businesses, letting the light shine on other people in our industry, letting the light shine on other people in our communities, and with authenticity to that's actually how you do become the stars, because you play that supporting role and you help all the other things develop and grow, and every character is important to this story, and you're important to your story because it's your story, and you can just live it. You don't have to worry about anything else.
And I think what's important about that is I had this argument with this coach, my coach. Me and Clark Trust gives me the ability to argue back. I like that. That's a good coach, right? And he was telling me that I had to put my face on the front cover of my book, and that my book was all about me. But I was like, no, it's the message. I want my message in the story to do it, and I choose to be the narrator in this. So I'm narrating it, but I want this picture to really come out. And if they really like it, they'll buy the book whether my face is on it or not. My face is on the back of the book, but I'm like, I don't like to be on the front of the book and say, "Here I am, everyday leadership," and you see this hunk of chocolate right here. I don't want to be on there. I didn't. That's not the position. I chose to be the narrator of the story, and I think that's okay. And I think the other thing I pulled out of what you said as well is that your character needs to have character.
Yes.
In your story. So that those are great points, ladies. I'm not last but not least. Come on, Cassie, bring the stargazers up and help us to unite.
Well, so I agree with Peggy that being unique and being authentic and being yourself is the absolute most important role that you can be. And if that role is the star, and sometimes that you need your authentic self to be the star, and sometimes you need it to be the supporting role, and sometimes you need it to be play a different part. And so I also like the fact that you talk about your book, because I actually have a second business that I'm bringing in the works, and I was working with my mentor on it, and one of the things we were going back and forth is that she really wanted she was like, you've already got Stargazers, and and so now you're bringing forth this other business, and neither one of them have your name in it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't want you to be hiding behind these two names, never putting your name on it. And I'm like, the point is like, so we finally kind of had to come to this agreement of like, I do not have any problem putting my name attached or associated with the business names, but the business names themselves are not about me. They're not about, it's more about what I can do to help and assist other people. And that is part of the branding that I want when people come to me, is that I'm here to support you, not I'm the star of the show. And so we kind of had we had a little bit of a back and forth
too.
on that one. But we kind of did, and we kind of did come to the conclusion that yes, it's we came to a happy compromise, but it's how do you want to be seen as your business? Do you want people to, for me, I get a ton of joy. I really do. I get a lot of joy out of knowing that when somebody needs help with something, that I'm the person that they call to do that.
Right.
And
I
so,
think good.
And that's always been a part of who I am, especially if I've worked with them multiple times, or I've developed a closer relationship with them. It's like the fact that they give me that trust, that is super important to me. And it makes me very happy. And so neither one of my businesses are about me. They're about how can I be that for people.
And that's awesome. And on the flip side of that, though, and I don't want to say I'm coming on your mentors. I'm not in that fight because I don't want you in my fight with my mentor either. So I'll give you a story. I will give you a story that happened to me. So I was doing this graduation for entrepreneurs, and this is when I had to evolve because my brand Champ I Am, it's an interesting brand because it kind of grows on you. And they look at it and they think I spelled champion wrong, and I don't. But once I understand Champ I Am, they don't look at champion the same no more. So I'm sitting in here and I had dignitaries, people from the Congress were there, and when the Congress came from the mic, he was like, and Champ I Am gave a great speech, but he didn't know my name. Okay, so, and that's where I had to start to evolve on my brand to be able to say, oh no, my name is Chris Hampton. I am Champ I Am. I had to do that because I wanted them to be able to find the source, because I realized also that you might not be the only stargazer out there. And when I started to Google Champ I Am, people were using my I trademarked it now, but people were using it for video game handles. They were using it for other things that weren't me, that if they were to put in Champ I Am by themselves, they wouldn't be able to get the true story of what's happening. They would have to actually know who I am, what I look like, or what my track record was to be able to find you. Because your brand is so important, that your brand, remember, our brand enters the room in most cases before we even do. So it's a choice, but you have to designate where you are and then understand that each path has its own result. And you're okay with the results.
Yeah, well, and I will add in that the I guess compromise that we came to was that my name was associated with both of my brands.
Right.
And I'm like, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah, it's an adjustment. And it's really easy to hide. It's really easy to hide behind your brand, especially if your brand starts to pick up momentum.
Yeah, so like but so I am being more mindful of making sure that the name is right there along with the brand, and then my picture is right there with it, associated with it, so that they do know where the source is. And I think that that's an excellent point. But yeah.
Well, here's another way to look at this. We're talking about storytelling. Your
Yeah.
name is the author of the story that you wrote. And just as important as the title is, it's also important to know who the author, who to attain the credit for the originality of that story. Because there are many people out there, and how I know it, and the reason why I had to trademark my name was I was going out there saying I'm Champ I Am, and people were looking out there like, So there are people out there that will take credit for your brand. So again, that's on the business and marketing side and the business side, but you really do need to protect your brand just as much as you are the effort and the time it takes to create your brand. You definitely want to protect your brand and let people know who you are. All right, so we talked about tone, we talked about character. Let's talking about the setting. And what do we mean by the setting? What do we mean by the setting? The setting is the backdrop in which you are telling your story. I'll give an example of my setting. My setting was my business started in the emergency room when I thought I had a heart attack. It ended up being a false alarm, but it ended up being a purpose alert. That's my setting of my story. You see what I just did? I just painted a picture for you. I was the character in the story, and the tone was there's a concern and there was a life moment that needed to be changed, and something had to change. So that's my example of what a brand story looks like, and I'm talking about setting up the setting. What would be your idea for the setting for your brand, and you're going to create the story, and how important is setting in this conversation?
I'm going to go different direction.
This is a free
Because
fall.
I think, like, I've been a professional photographer my entire life, but for sure my entire adult life. And my setting was always in the studio. I worked in the studio. I did events. That was where I happened. And now, thanks to COVID and kind of, when Mother Nature scolded us all and made us take a time out for a while, um, I realized that my setting doesn't have to just be in the studio, that I consult. I used to consult while I was in the studio with my clients, but I can also consult and help people figure out what they need to do, even if they don't live locally and they're going to a different photographer. So now my sitting is not just a studio, but it's right here in front of the Zoom. It's teaching, it's talking, it's doing all these things, where before my my setting was always a one-on-one setting. I was with you and you were with me, and there was never anyone else. If it were an event, it was still like I was taking your picture, I was taking your picture, I was doing your family thing, I was following the bride and groom, whatever it was. But now my setting is not just that, it's also this. So the story, the environment and the setting of my story has changed and grown. It's not just one-on-one. Now I can sit down at a conference with 300 people globally, and I can do the same thing I was doing with one person one-on-one in the studio. So that's how I'm going to interpret the setting for the
And
story.
that's cool. And you know what? It's still the same because it's
Uh-huh.
the backdrop in which you sell your story. So
Uh-huh.
7 years later, I'm not in the emergency room. You
That's
know,
good.
so it's like, hey, 7 years later, I'm not in the emergency room. I'm not in the same place I started. Same thing with you. You started as a photographer, but you're not in that same thing. As your business evolved, it was doing a great example would be a great mentor in my head is Bishop T.D. Jakes. And if you ever hear his name or something like that, he's a preacher. But people always thought of him as just a preacher. But then he started to be in the music industry and became a music producer. Now he's doing movies with Tyler Perry and buying up studios with Tyler Perry, doing movie sets and things like that. And people are looking at him and saying, "You're a preacher. You can't do all those things." No, he decided to change the setting of what he wants his picture to look like. And he said, "I'm more than just one thing." And that's so important that we don't get stuck in the storytelling mode, that we're stuck in the one scene and be able to change our scenes. Anyone want to add to that?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, if you look at even if you look at the two different businesses I work, I for Stargazers Unite, I try to, I really try to speak a lot to light workers and psychics, mediums. That is a large part of my business, and my podcast and everything kind of directs that way. The second business I'm bringing forward is the Witch's Chalice, and that's my psychic medium. That actually is my psychic mediumship, tarot readings, things like that. But they do interrelate. So kind of the fun part is you get to, what I like to work with clients on is to bring forward the different aspects of who they are. You can do that through your social media. You can do that with your things. And I think it's coming up with those consistent things that you want to show people, sometimes I even, look at like personal life. What about your personal life do you want? Because we all know that people tend to the more that they feel like they know you and connect with you, then they're going to be more willing to work with you. So even when you're looking at your personal life, like what are like those pillars that you actually want the rest of the world to know about? Or
Great.
not that you're hiding anything, but like these are the things I don't mind being public information, right? Mm-hmm. So, every bit of it, everything that you put out there, whether it is on your personal profile, whether it is on your business page, it all represents you. So just kind of being aware and being mindful of all the different pieces that go into it.
It's called controlling the narrative, that we should always be able to control the narrative of what our story should be. Because again, the worst thing to happen is someone to come in and hijack your foundation, hijack your story and start telling somebody else's story. Now, that becomes a lie. So I love this. I love this conversation that we're having. If you are getting fruits in here, this is a hot thing. Just say this is good for you. If you're in the chat, say this is meaningful for you. We're coming to the end of our discussion, and I just wanted to. We lost Marilyn. She can't hit. Okay. We're going to continue on. But we're just coming with the last roundup, and I just would like you to share one thing that you think that's important that they need to leave from this conversation with about the brand story.
Would you like to go, or would you like me to start?
I'm going to go with, I think we've already mentioned it a couple times already, but I think the most important thing you can do when you are building your brand and building your story is to be authentic and true. And it is also one of the hardest things to do because it can feel very vulnerable when you do that. But that's once you kind of take away that mask, that's what people are going to connect with the most.
I love it.
So since I was going to say the exact same thing, I'm going to leave you with the story. Anybody that watches the Wednesday show, Mink Life Motivation Show, knows that I'm always telling Ron Stauffer stories. That's my dad. Ron Stauffer is an entrepreneur, a business person. I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family, and I was raised, with the thought that you live in a fishbowl. You have to always put your public face on and never do anything that could ever tarnish the family name, the family business. And I lived by that for literally years. I mean, decades. And one day I thought, what if my clients saw me fall? Like, what would happen? What if my clients didn't see me being perfect? What if they saw me stub my toe in the grocery store and curse? Like, would that ruin? Would they never want me to take pictures of their babies again? Would that like destroy my entire business? And I finally realized that I was putting up this, mask always. I used to do families, and I used to be portraits by Peggy, and now I'm headshots by Peggy. But I would always put this mask on, always in the grocery store, because you never know who your next client's going to be. At the if you take the kids to SeaWorld, you got it. You never know who's going to be your next client. And I always was conscious about how I appeared to other people. And then I realized, you know what? I actually draw more people to me when I just throw that mask off and just live my true life. And the people that are okay with me stubbing my toe and saying a curse word, they're going to come be my customer anyway. And the people that weren't going to pay me good, and they were going to be a pain in the butt anyway, and they're not
Mhm.
going to come to me, and that's okay. We're not meant to have every single person as our clients, and that's fine. But to build onto what Cassandra's Cassie,
All good.
this is a long joke. This is a long inside joke. Anyway, I don't know her name. I call her different things,
Took you a
different
while.
days.
All good. Uh-oh. We lost
You're
you,
there.
Adam.
I said I like the name I gave her, but apparently she likes the name her parents gave her. Whatever. Um, anyway, but I think that that's the power of your story, is to actually tell your story. So to build
Mhm.
on what you said, that's what it means to me when I say be authentic with your story. It means put the mask down and let people see you not be perfect. It's okay.
And I think
We're
what you
all
just said was
human.
that's so powerful, because a lot of times we try to make ourselves the superhero. And the only time that when you make yourself a superhero, when you do fall, it's traumatic. I'm gonna quote Popeye. I think he said, "I am that I am." I am who I am. Okay? And I think that that's a very important thing, is that we don't make our story that we are super women, super men, so that when we do fall, because the fall is going to happen, we're going to make a mistake. That's when it becomes effective, because you've been lying, you've been hiding behind the lie that we're the perfect brand story, and we're not. So
And as our fearless leader Monica always says, fall big, fall openly, and fall forward.
I
Fall
love it.
forward. Like,
Well,
because just
it,
because we fall doesn't mean we're going backwards. You can fall forward and then stand back up from there. Fall forward and stand back up from there. You're still making ground.
It's as long as you don't quit. And then I think that's the thing, is that, again, it's not perfection, because you don't learn nothing in perfection. The perfection is a lie within itself, that we try to have the perfect time to step out and do your business, the perfect time to step out, and is your family ever going to be perfect? We all got families here. Is there ever a perfect time to do anything when we have family? No. We're getting hit from the left and the right all the time, but our job is to sit there and say, they're like, "How are you standing?" That's a part of my story. Would you like to hear it? And just be authentic and real in your story. Every day is not Sunday, every day is not a rainbow, but this is the reason why we're here today. And it gives you a sense of purpose and understanding. So we've come to another almost end of a Mink Life University Symposium, Activate Symposium. And our topic today was branding, activating your zone of genius with branding your branding story. And again, I want to give a shout out to Monica Henderson, who is the fearless leader of this ship, and just the vision that she has of uniting professionals from across the world to come together in a community that we can grow. Listen, guys, your business vision is too big for you to do it by yourself. You're going to need to have a community and a connection. And I put my stamp of approval on this, that this is a great community to be a part of. And I'm sure other people will say the same. Well, you come here, you're not going to be the same again. Give Mink Life University 6 months. I give you a 6-month challenge. You get in this community, and I guarantee your business will not be the same if you would take the time to be authentic, intentional, and connect. Thank you guys for coming in and being a part of this conversation. And thank you to out there who are watching and listening and being a part of this conversation too. We hope to get a chance to see you on the platform. My name is Chris Hampton. I am Champ I Am, and we say goodbye and good night.